Our consumer reporter shows us a much bigger job that's focused kind of on safety.
This is cool. It's one of those stories. Never seen one of these before. He takes us to those big concrete strips on the airport known as runways.
When you do business with the airport, the aviation authority takes a cut.
Every time that you buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
A cut.
Every time that you buy something at one of the gift shops.
A cut.
Same thing with all the parking.
A cut. Now sometimes that money is spent on the obvious, like construction, but other projects are a little more obscure.
It's the kind of thing that happens behind the scenes.
Sunday, midnight.
The first run is done 10 foot off of the center line.
And the airport is spending thousands pressure washing the runway.
We are performing rubber removal services.
But unlike your driveway, this is anything but cosmetic. About 20 hours a day, every day, airliners land in Tampa. Each jet literally leaves its mark in the form of rubber on the runway.
Similar as you've seen skid marks along the roadway.
The rubber builds up big time. Airfield Superintendent Charles Allen says too much rubber raises a flight safety risk.
The rubber builds up, it accumulates. It can cause friction issues on the runway.
To prevent planes from skidding, the airport has hired a special truck-mounted water cannon to jet blast every square inch of its 3 runways.
He's currently running at 28,000 PSI.
This incredible pressure washer crawls. It moves slow enough that we could walk right next to it. In pass after pass after pass, it's meticulously stripping the equivalent of 5 football fields, just 2 feet at a time.
It's got a 2-foot cutting head on this particular rig.
The painstaking process of removing rubber drags on all night long and is required twice a year.
It's like clockwork, every 6 months.
Around sunrise,
We test before and after.
a state inspector arrives to scientifically survey the results. Engineer Tyler Adkins drives the length of each runway.
Looking good.
On cruise control.
We run at 40 miles an hour.
Beneath the bed, a tiny tire drops from the back of the truck.
Wheels down, testing.
A sensor in the spinning wheel measures the friction on the runway to determine whether a jet would skid in the rain.
The red line right here is the base.
The overnight operation is a success. All runways are cleared for landing.
The friction looks real good on this runway.
Who knew? So the next time you're watching a plane land and you spot that poop of smoke, remember there's rubber meeting the runway and folks on the graveyard shift who make sure that plane can break.
It's constant.
Also, don't forget you probably paid for this clandestine cleanup.
You park in our parking facility, you buy a cup of coffee, you're paying for rubber removal at the airport.
That is so interesting, and I'm so curious. I mean, it's just normal. It's rubber, right? It's rubber right off the tires.
Exactly. Yep. You want to feel it?
Of course.
So the process essentially.
He brought us
pulverizes
wipies too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can wipe off your hands.
On here.
So yeah, it's a powder, and look at that there, and it has a little bit of an odor to it, but you can feel it. And I'll let you wipe off your fingers.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And so they collect that twice a year, big piles of it in the corner of the airport.
Crumbling like dirt.
It
So
does
it's
smell kind of yucky.
It's an interesting operation, and I think it's a great value actually because they paid 10 grand to power wash the equivalent of 5 football fields. It's actually a pretty good deal.
It is a good deal.
Ultimately.
I'm curious now too. When you see all this, how often they're changing the wheels on those planes?
Yeah, they certainly have to. Yeah, and occasionally those tires do pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen
Infrequently.
that happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt the concrete. They're just taking the rubber off and
Yep, they have to keep moving. They have to keep moving. If they stop, they say that 28,000 PSI would damage the concrete. So they just have to keep moving the whole time.
And short of giving you a full mason jar's worth, what do they do with the rest?
So that's a great question. We ask that too. What do you do with it all? They actually recycle it. More
Did they?
tires.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Piles of it and piles of it in the corner of the airport. Interesting stuff.
Well,
we
that
had
is
no
odd.
idea. Such an odd job. Somebody's got to do it.
How'd you come up with that story idea?
Oh, we actually started asking about, wait a minute, so up north, if they do all that de-icing, do we have to do anything special down here? And they said, oh yeah, we got to do this a little more often than other airports because of all the heat.
Because the heat
Right,
baking
I'm
this
sure,
into
of
the
course,
concrete.
yeah.
Yep, exactly. And you don't want it on there.
No.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as it makes it safe, that's what we care about.
Exactly. And that's the key part
Now
of
we'll
this.
take a hand
All right,
sanitizer.
there you
Yeah,
go.
really. It does kind of
Very
smell
good.
bad.
It does. Chris,
Thank
thanks
you,
very much.
Chris.
Good stuff.
See ya.